Hello, I am Dr. Vidya Chelerkar. I will be speaking on optic nerve head evaluation in glaucoma.
Dr. Vidya Chelekar is a senior glaucoma consultant at HV Desai Eye Hospital, Pune. She has completed her glaucoma fellowship from Arvind Eye Hospital, Madurai, holds a clinical experience of 22 years and teaching experience of 15 years. She has several publications to her name in national and international journals and has also presented several papers in national and international conferences.
Clinical evaluation and documentation of the optic nerve head is essential for the diagnosis and monitoring of glaucoma. Let us first look at the normal optic nerve head. It is a vertically oval disc about 1.7 to 1.8 millimeters in size. The normal cup is horizontally oval. The mean cup disc ratio is 0.4 to 0.5:1. The normal optic nerve head is usually bilaterally symmetrical. The neuroretinal rim is uniformly orange-red in color and follows the Eisent rule. The peripapillary nerve fiber layer appears as refractile striations extending radially from the optic disc. It is thickest at the superior and inferior areas. Hence, the neural rim is also thicker at the superior and inferior poles. Thinning or disappearance of the nerve fiber layer is an important sign of glaucoma. The Eisent rule describes the thickness of the neuroretinal rim in a healthy disc. Normally, the inferior rim is the thickest, then the superior rim, then nasal, and lastly, the temporal rim is the thinnest. Any alteration or reduction of thickness is an important sign of glaucoma. Glaucomatous disc evaluation. The goals of optic nerve head evaluation are to distinguish between healthy and glaucomatous disc, to quantify the damage into mild, moderate, and severe, and to monitor and quantify the change in the disc size over a period of time. Slit lamp biomicroscopy with a 90 diopter or 78 diopter lens is the best method of optic nerve head examination since it provides a good stereopsis and magnification. Disc photographs or drawings are useful to follow the changes over time. The normal optic nerve head can be of various sizes. It is useful to know whether we are examining a normal, large, or small optic disc. This is done at the slit lamp by focusing a slit beam vertically over the disc and taking the reading. The magnification factor needs to be adjusted according to the lens used. So what do we observe? The disc size and shape, the cup size and shape and the cup disc ratio, the neuroretinal rim, disc hemorrhages, blood vessels, peripapillary atrophy, and the retinal nerve fiber layer. The size of the disc can vary from 1.5 to 2.2 millimeters. In a small disc, the axons are densely packed in the given area and the cup is small. The large disc has a large cup. It is important to assess the CD ratio, taking into account the size of the disc. As I said earlier, the discs are symmetrical in the two eyes. Asymmetry in the cup disc ratio of more than 0.2:1 can be a sign of glaucoma, provided the discs are of the same size. As the retinal ganglion cells die due to glaucoma, there is thinning of the neuroretinal rim and enlargement of the cup. The disc changes in glaucoma are typically progressive and asymmetric. Focal enlargement of the cup is one of the earliest signs of glaucomatous damage. Loss of axons begins at the poles and the cup begins to enlarge towards the superior or inferior poles or superiotemporally or inferotemporally, with resultant thinning of the neuroretinal rim and increase in the vertical cup disc ratio. Focal enlargement of the cup with a sharp area of discrete thinning of the neural rim is known as a notch. It is characteristic of glaucoma. It can progress to become a full notch with complete absence of the rim. This may be associated with corresponding peripapillary atrophy adjacent to the notch. Please note in the picture that the inferior rim has become thinner than the superior rim. The isn't rule is violated. This is an important sign of glaucoma. Some patients may show concentric enlargement of the cup. This occurs when there is thinning of the neuroretinal rim in all quadrants. This may be physiological, but these discs need to be followed up for progression to glaucoma. Deepening of the cup may be seen in some patients, which causes exposure of the lamina cribrosa. This is known as the laminar dot sign. The optic cup is easily recognized by its yellow color. The edge of the enlarging cup is recognized by the kinking of the vessel, and this point may not be the same as the yellow cup margin. The enlargement of the cup, as indicated by the point of kinking of vessels, may be seen ahead of the area of pallor. The color cup is the easily visible yellow cup. The contour cup is the cup size determined by the kinking of the vessel. It is the contour cup that we need to look at during glaucoma evaluation. The neuroretinal rim is the area bounded by the scleral rim and the cup margin. Assessment of the color and configuration, that is size and shape of the neuroretinal rim, is important. As the cup enlarges, there is thinning of the neuroretinal rim, more common at the superior and inferior poles. In the early stages of glaucoma, it is seen as focal thinning of the neural rim, and as the disease progresses, more and more area of the rim becomes thin and eventually disappears. The color of a healthy neuroretinal rim is orange-red. A pale rim may be due to ischemic glaucomatous damage. Although pallor is seen in glaucoma, but if the disc is disproportionately pale, it is suggestive of non-glaucomatous optic atrophy. Vessel changes can also be seen in glaucoma. As the cup reaches the disc margin, there is loss of neuroretinal rim and the blood vessels bend sharply when they pass over the edge of the disc. This is known as bayoneting. It is a sign of loss of neuroretinal rim. You can also see nasal shifting of vessels in the picture on the right. Bearing of circumlinear vessels. Normally, small vessels are seen to pass horizontally along the cup margin. As the cup enlarges, the underlying tissue loss may leave the vessel freely suspended. This appears as a gap or area of pallor between the vessel and the cup margin. This is known as bearing of the circumlinear vessel. This is a sign of glaucoma, although it may be seen in non-glaucomatous eyes too. Tortuosity of vessels is seen in moderate to severe glaucomatous damage. Fine veno-venous anastomosis develop as a response to ischemia. Splinter hemorrhages near the margin of the optic nerve head are a common feature in glaucoma. They may come and go so that they may be seen in one visit and are gone in the next visit. Disc hemorrhages are an important finding as they may precede nerve fiber layer defects, notching, and visual field defects. They are associated with periods of high IOP, but can also be seen in normal tension glaucoma. If a new disc hemorrhage appears in a known glaucoma patient, it means the disease is out of control and may lead to progression. The normal retinal nerve fiber layer appears as refractile striations extending radially from the poles. The loss of axonal bundles is seen as defects in the retinal nerve fiber layer. These defects appear as dark stripes in the peripapillary area, parallel to the normal retinal striations. Nerve fiber layer loss can be seen as slit-shaped or wedge-shaped defects arising from the superior or inferior poles, and these appear as dark stripes. There can also be diffuse nerve fiber layer loss. These defects often correlate with neural rim loss and visual field changes. Peripapillary changes are frequently associated with glaucomatous optic atrophy, but can also be seen in myopia and old age. It is important to identify the disc margin when looking at the peripapillary changes. The scleral lip is the border of the disc. The gray crescent is part of the inferior or inferotemporal neuroretinal rim. This should not be mistaken for peripapillary atrophy. Peripapillary atrophy is divided into two zones. The beta zones happens because of atrophy of the retinal pigment epithelium and the choriocapillaries, allowing the large choroidal vessels to be visible. The alpha zone is as a result of irregular hypo or hyperpigmentation of the retinal pigment epithelium. The beta atrophy is more specific to glaucoma. Alpha atrophy is non-specific. It is important to monitor the changes in the peripapillary atrophy as these can progress as the disease progresses. It can be difficult to assess glaucomatous damage in a myopic disc. Oblique insertion of the optic nerve head in myopic patients obscures visualization of the temporal neural rim. This creates a wide temporal peripapillary crescent, and it may be difficult to distinguish between a physiologic and glaucomatous cupping. In the picture on the right, the large cup with bearing of the circumlinear vessel indicates glaucomatous damage. Some developmental anomalies can be confused with glaucomatous atrophy, like the optic disc coloboma, morning glory syndrome, and optic pit, and other acquired conditions like ischemic optic neuropathy. To summarize, assess the size of the optic disc clinically, assess the shape and contour of the neuroretinal rim, look for focal damage to the neural rim, the retinal nerve fiber layer atrophy, beta zone peripapillary atrophy, and presence of disc hemorrhages. Apply Easint rule and document the appearance of the optic disc. It is important to correlate these disc signs with the clinical picture and visual field defects. Technologies like the OCT can detect and quantify early glaucomatous damage. However, they are not a replacement for good clinical examination of the optic nerve head. Regular follow-up of the optic disc changes can help to monitor progression. Thank you.